Welcome to day 12 in our study of the book of Ecclesiastes. The title of today's lesson is He Who Loves Money Will Not Be Satisfied with Money. Our passage today is taken from Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verses 8 through 20. If you see in a province the oppression of the poor and the violation of justice and righteousness, do not be amazed at the matter, for the high official is watched by a higher, and there are yet higher ones over them. But this is the gain for a land in every way, a king committed to cultivated fields. He who loves money will not be satisfied with money, nor he who loves wealth with his income. This also is vanity. When goods increase, they increase who eat them. And what advantage has their owner but to see them with his eyes? Sweet is the sleep of a laborer, whether he eats little or much. But the full stomach of the rich will not let him sleep. There is a grievous evil that I have seen under the sun. Riches were kept by their owner to his hurt, and those riches were lost in a bad venture. And he is father of a son, but he has nothing in his hand. As he came from his mother's womb, he shall go again, naked as he came, and shall take nothing for his toil, that he may carry away in his hand. This also is a grievous evil. Just as he came, so shall he go. And what gain is there to him who toils for the wind? Moreover, all his days he eats in darkness, in much vexation, and sickness, and anger. Behold, what I have seen to be good and fitting is to eat and drink and find enjoyment in all the toil with which one toils under the sun, the few days of his life that God has given him, for this is his lot. Everyone also to whom God has given wealth and possessions and power to enjoy them, and to accept his lot and rejoice in his toil, this is the gift of God. For he will not much remember the days of his life, because God keeps him occupied with the joy in his heart. Leo Tolstoy's 1886 short story, How Much Land Does a Man Need?, is a classic. I recall the story from my high school literature book. It is a story of a peasant named Pahom, who overhears his wife talking to her older sister, who has come for a visit to the peasant's home, herself being from the city and well-to-do as incomes go. The older sister chides the younger sister for her meager living conditions and boasts of the life she lives in the city. Pahom listens and concludes that, yes, he shouldn't fear the devil himself if he indeed had land. The devil indeed was listening close by and sows seeds of envy in the heart of Pahom. The story progresses through one tale after another, each with Pahom venturing out for more and more land until the final opportunity comes, wherein he can buy for 1,000 rubles as much land as he can walk around in one day. At last, he surmises and begins to dream of how much land he can have. As he begins and marks off the land as he goes, it seems that he can have more and more land. Unable to stop for rest, he presses on. In the end, he does reach the beginning and gets the land. Unfortunately, he had pushed himself so hard that he falls dead. How much land did poor Pahom need? 6 feet from his head to his heels, the size of his grave. What a tale! If only it weren't as true as real life. Many a person has fallen prey to the just a little bit more temptation. With closets full of clothes, we go shopping for more. Running out of space in our homes and garages, we rent storage facilities. Not satisfied with one home, we buy a cottage on the lake. Are these wrong? Well, I suppose that all depends on whether we own them or they own us. How many stories, movies, and books tell the tale of the hoarders of wealth who must have more and more? Scrooge at Christmas, Aesop's The Miser and His Gold, Robert Louis Stevenson's Kidnapped, Dostoevsky's Mr. Poharchin. Yet there are real-life accounts of those who lived impoverished lives to the outside world, yet were discovered to be quite wealthy beyond the imagination upon their death. Joseph Leake died and left $1.8 million to an organization that provides guide dogs to the blind. Not unusual, except not even his own family knew he had money. He bought second-hand clothes, he watched TV at his neighbor's house to save money on electricity, and put off all his home repairs, according to his daughters. Peggy Sheehan Nee, an estate attorney and elder law practitioner in Saddlebrook, New Jersey, says these are quite common. As even Solomon declared in Proverbs 13, verses 7 through 8. One pretends to be rich, yet has nothing. Another pretends to be poor, yet has great wealth. The ransom of a man's life is his wealth, but a poor man hears no threat. Over and over in Scripture, we read the warnings of the love of wealth that enslaves. Peter writes in his letter, 2 Peter chapter 2 and verses 19, "For whatever overcomes a person, to that he is enslaved." James tells us of the cost of hoarding wealth in James chapter 5, verses 1 through 6. "Come now, you rich, weep and howl for the miseries that you are come upon. Your riches have rotted, and your garments are moth-eaten. Your gold and silver have corroded, and their corrosion will be evidence against you, and will eat your flesh like fire. You have laid up treasure in the last days. Behold, the wages of the laborers who mowed your fields, which you kept back by fraud, are crying out against you, and the cries of the harvesters have reached the ears of the Lord of hosts. You have lived on the earth in luxury and in self-indulgence. You have fattened your hearts in days of slaughter. You have condemned and murdered the righteous person. He does not resist you." And remember Paul's sobering words to Timothy in 1 Timothy chapter 6, verses 9 through 10, where Paul writes, "But those who desire to be rich fall into temptation, into a snare, into many senseless and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evils. It is through this craving that some have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many pangs." Jesus warned of such things that choke out the word in Matthew chapter 13, verse 22. "As for what was sown among the thorns, this is the one who hears the word, but the cares of the world and the deceitfulness of riches choke the word, and it proves unfruitful." Indeed, Solomon calls it a sickness that possesses one in pursuit of more and more riches. He reminds of an eternal truth of all who come into this world in Ecclesiastes 5:15. "As he came from his mother's womb, he shall go again, naked as he came, and shall take nothing for his toil that he may carry away in his hand." Even Job knew this 1,000 years before Solomon in Job 1:21. "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked shall I return. And the Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." As even Paul will affirm to Timothy 1,000 years into the future from Solomon, 1 Timothy 6, 6 and 7. "But godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into the world, and we cannot take anything out of the world." Of which Jesus tells in his parable of the foolish man who wanted to build more barns to store his produce in Luke 12:20. "But God said to him, 'Fool, this night your soul is required of you, and the things you have prepared, whose will they be?'" Even today we know this truth. Truly, there's nothing new under the sun as it pertains to human behavior and what we shall take from this world of our possessions. Have you thought about what will last after you pass from this world? And Lord willing, let's meet here again tomorrow for another lesson from the book of Ecclesiastes.